Welcome to Shorty SuperCoach, and welcome to what's pretty much just a bit of a Shorty's Ramble. I'm just driving down the Great Ocean Road, just going to Lawn actually, and I just thought I'd pass the time by doing a bit of a random video, just popping down there to go to the little cafe by the swing bridge. If you know Lawn, you'll know the swing bridge. They do a mighty fine milkshake, so that's where Shorty's heading. It's basically my last day of holidays too. Like, this is Thursday, I've got another little gig on the Friday, and then I got the weekend off, but this is sort of the last genuine holiday that I feel like I've actually got, so trying to make the most of it. I've been able to pump out a few vids, which has been good, having all this sort of free time. I've been to a couple of places, I went to Kennett River and stayed at Lawn as well, but I have had a fair bit of spare time, which has allowed me to get a few vids out, so we've almost been pumping out one a day just about, which has been good. So I'll try and keep that pace when I go back to work, but we'll see how we go. But yeah, look, today I didn't have anything in particular I wanted to talk about. Like I said, I just went through Anglesea. We're coming up Aries Inlet, and just thought it'd be a good way to sort of pass the time, and I wanted to do a video today, and I thought, well, I'm out of range for the radio, and I'd gone through my playlist, so I thought I'd pump out some SuperCoach content. No particular topic, I just wanted to almost ramble about sort of how I'm feeling at the moment with my SuperCoach side and how it's looking, because I think at the moment we're just about to hit the pre-season games. Not too far off now. It's still a couple of weeks, I guess, but that's when it really gets difficult. I find my team's always super settled up until now, and it has been similar. I think the only real change I've made is Heaney, because he injured himself. So I think what I'm hoping to do is maintain some sanity through these practice games, because often what can happen is you see someone have really good practice matches, and you get seduced into it. You get sort of caught up in the hype of just two games, and they're often mid-price types, and I always think it's crucial to never judge your premiums through the pre-season games. Just, they can do what they please. You should be confident with them. But I mean, who's a few guys that I am actually interested in watching through the pre-season? I think probably the main one is Jack Stephen, to be fair. Like, he's a guy that has been on my mind a lot. I just think that the Cats will play him through the middle if he's fit, and we know what a good player he is. Yeah, he's getting a bit older, but he's got a few other things going on too, which have been well documented. But I really do think if he's fit and in the team playing midfield, I think he's averaging 90 at least, and that makes him an absolute starter at that price. So I'll be very interested to see how he goes about. I know he had a little calf concern, apparently just minor, but the calf and sort of his injury history, it's not ideal. Aiden Bonner is another one as well. Hopefully you're not getting car sick. I'm just looking at my phone, it's bobbling around all over the joint, so maybe you can just throw the earphones into this one. Visually it might not be the best product of all time from Shorty SuperCoach, but Aiden Bonner as well is a bloke, obviously he's at North Melbourne now. He's priced about, I think, 200k, something like that. Big body type, got a little bit of opportunity at the Giants, but star-studded team, he didn't get as much opportunity as he would have liked, and he's not going to just walk into North Melbourne's side. They have got a fair bit of upcoming talent there, but I reckon if he can find a spot, and the discussion from what I've read is that they do want a big body type in the middle, and they do feel that he can play a little bit forward. So I think the position, if he's in the side, will be pretty beneficial for SuperCoach, but just a watch and see, I think. We may as well stick with the forward line flavour. I think Hugh Greenwood as well. I did a player profile on him the other day, and obviously sung his praises there. And I do stand by that. I really do think he can average around 93, 94, something like that. But I do need to see that little bit of, I guess, reassurance through through the pre-season games that Gold Coast do want him playing in the guts and not just pinch hitting and then going forward, which I highly doubt. I mean, he's gone to Gold Coast for a reason. They would have talked about all this in the process. I'm sure he would have been like, well, if I'm coming to your club, boys, this is how I want to play my footy. This is where I think my best football can be. Can you meet that? And they would have said yes. And then the trade got done. And I think he'll be playing pure mid, to be honest. He might have stints elsewhere, like very, very small stints elsewhere. Everyone sort of rotates a touch these days, except for the superstars. But I think he's just about going to be a pure mid. And that's what we try to look for in the forward line, because I tell you what, the forwards are looking tough. I mean, I've mentioned it a lot already, how I'm only confident in two players, and that's Whitfield and Martin. And they're about as big a locks as you can ever get. And then it's just a bunch of uncertainty, really. So I think if we can find some mid-price types, like Greenwood, like Stephen, and I'm sure you guys are saying Devon Smith, you know, you guys know my thoughts on him. I did a video on him the other day. But, you know, then I read an article that he's been the shining light through pre-season. He's looking amazing, you know. So, look, I could be made to eat my words there, but I do stand by that at the moment. I won't be starting with him unless he just absolutely tears some of these pre-season games apart. So that'd be really interesting, because I could see a lot of people starting probably a couple of those guys, Stephen and Greenwood and Smith. Smith definitely seems to be the pick of the lot at the moment. So yeah, that'd be interesting. But look, the midfield, it's always tempting to go a point of difference in your premiums, I reckon. Always tempting. And ironically, my midfield looks semi-point of difference. I mean, they're not... I haven't gone for an outlandish 2% or anything like that, but I don't have, you know, I don't have Fife, I don't have any of the Bulldogs players, I don't have Neil. You're probably thinking, who the hell you got in your side, Shorty? But I think I've got a few guys in that 10 to 15% range ownership. Cornelio, Kelly, Oliver, and then I've got obviously Dangerfield and Cripps, of course. And Cripps is like one of the most popular, as we know. Speaking of Dangerfield, we're just rolling into a bit of Paddy Dangerfield country now. Just went past the Moggs Creek sign, so there you go. And looks like we're stumbling into some roadworks, but yeah, but no. So a little bit of point of difference in the midfield, not too much, but I guess alternatively you could have Fife, Neil, Cripps, Dunkley, or, you know, something like that. And then, sorry, McRae's more popular. And then you just, you know, not have much point of difference at all. You'd basically be owning all the key guys. So I haven't gone any outlandish, you know, real POD style guys. But, and you know my thoughts on the mid-price type as well. I try to avoid that if I can through the midfield. I know last year, looking back at my team, I had Liberatore in there. And I think you'd probably say he was successful. Not overall season, but he did start the year reasonably well and provided a decent stepping stone. I'd have to reflect a little bit deeper on the stats, but from memory, he was a success without maybe being exactly what we had hoped. He was good without being great, I suppose. And just touching on the ruck, you know, I think every man and his dog has Grundy in the side, but I know when I did the ruck premiums with Gawn, he'd just gotten injured and he was in like 38% of sides, something like that. I checked this morning and he's in 31. So clearly there is, you know, a little bit of concern out there with his injury, and fair enough. As you guys know, I had concern about his body before he went down pre-season, and, you know, it looks like he'll be fine for round one, but it's still concerning for a bloke who's that susceptible to injury to cop one pre-season. Just isn't ideal to have a great 120 plus averaging season, but we'll have to wait and see. Who are your other options? Well, I've got Timmy English. Now, he's probably the most up for debate player in my side because he's not cheap. I think he's about $4.50, something like that. So he's not a bargain by any stretch, but I really like... Everyone's flying in pre-season, we know that. You talk to anyone, yeah, he's my best pre-season, he's a time trial this and that. But there is some genuine chat that I can... It's just a gut feel. I remember when Tom Hawkins was training at the Cats, and he'd long been spoken about as an absolute gun in the making. And I remember the pre-season just before he broke out, I think his average went from like 70 to 95. And I remember the talk was Tom's really flying. Like he's looking real dominant. And that's the talk out of the Dogs, you know. English is getting quite a bit of attention. A couple of guys have been traded to the Dogs have gone, gee, I didn't think he was this good, or, you know, and for him to now translate at AFL level, that's going to be the key. So at the minute, I'm rolling with him. No one else really takes my fancy. Nick Nat, probably a bit injury prone, risky, very risky. And then I sort of want to avoid those primos that are just reliable. Like, it sounds silly, but I want to have Gawn in my side at some point alongside Grundy, you know, once he gets fully fit and all that. So I don't really want to have a bloke that I have to pay $500k at least for, that I'm inevitably going to trade out, you know, like a Goldstein or a Witts. I'm trying to think of a few other examples. McAvoy, Marshall, you know, a few of those types that, you know, they all have their own reasons as to why I don't think they're the best picks, but the biggest one is that I don't think they're going to be capable of averaging much more than 105, and therefore they're not going to stay on my side the whole season. So why would I spend upward of 500k on them to trade them out after round 8 or 9? Doesn't make sense. So I know English isn't cheap, but I do think he's got just as much upside, and he's a little bit cheaper and seems fairly durable. So we're just getting we're just past Devil's Elbow, which is just the start of the real windy bit of the Great Ocean Road. So probably only, I don't know, 10 or 15 away from Lawn. I dare say I'll wind this video up before then. I just wanted to touch on the backline, I suppose. And the backline is probably, at least to me, the easiest line at the moment. I was speaking about who I want to watch pre-season. Well, I'm pretty confident with a lot of these guys, but, you know, I am interested to see, you know, Caleb Daniel, that he is just the absolute main man out of defence. You know, they're giving him the ball as the distributor. You just want to tick off on that. Rory Laird, how's he going? He's been a bloke who's been in our sides regularly. Now he's in, I think, 1 in 5 teams. You know, normally he's just about 1 in 2. But can he sort of bounce back along with many other Crows trying to do that? I'm pretty confident with Sicily. And who else have I got? Oh, Doherty, of course. I mean, you want to see Doherty going well, but everyone will ride the same bumps with that. Everyone will have him, basically. And he only has to show us a glimpse, basically, through pre-season to get picked. But Brandon Starcevic and Tommy Williamson, very interested to see. I really have some high hopes for them, but just as equally, they could not even get picked for round 1. So that's why it's really funny. And I want to see them through pre-season. Starcevic's being talked right up through pre-season, one of the prime trainers and looking great on the track. I haven't heard as much about Williamson, but I'm just a big fan of him. When I was at the Courier, I covered him as a North Ballarat Rebel, or Greater Western Victoria Rebel, he may have been. And he was just a very agile, just looked a footballer. He's a nice height, and he really came on well in the early stages of his career before injury kicked in. And I'm pretty confident, I just feel as if the Blues really like him. You know, there's some players that clubs want to see do well. They all want to see him do well, but there's those types where you just go, they rate him and they're going to be really patient with him because they know what they've got if they can get him on the park. I really think they've got a good feeling about him, and so do I. I mean, they're two guys that are priced, I think, around 140 odd, something like that, 140, 150. And if they can both start, then, I really do think that could be, the backline could just be really simple, or it could prove absolute nightmares. I could have to do some reshuffling, but so that's about all I wanted to really discuss, to be honest. I just, as I said, thought I'd throw the video on. Should be a good day ahead, actually. I'm going a lot. I've got to do my tax later. I know what you're thinking, Shorty, what the hell have you been doing? Doing your tax in bloody months late. But anyway, we'll get around to that. So, yeah, a little stint in lawn, grab me milkshake. I'll probably wander around some rocks and stuff. That's what Shorty tends to do. Just go for a little explore. So, yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed this pretty random video. I'll probably have this up over the weekend or something like that. I'm not sure what order it'll all come in, but I've got a little product reveal. Got a little podcast coming up with Langers. We'll do that tonight and I'll release that in the coming days. Got player profiles to do. Got a bit of a list happening. So feel free to mention if you guys do want to see. But hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully your side's coming together pretty well. As a bloke just lets me through. But anyway, I'll catch you soon. We'll have a bit of content coming through over the weekend, and stay tuned for that. Cheers.